I've seen this running joke online about how when you get heartbroken, it's better for gains, or when you uh, lose someone, break up, that you then put on like 20 pounds of muscle, whatever the joke is. And that's kind of how I got into running. I got to go back a little bit before that because as a kid, I think all kids like to run around and have fun if they can. And I definitely was one of those kids, and I did these Hershey track meets, but never trained. And then in sixth grade, I took second at a 100-meter dash, got to go to state or something, or region, I can't remember, and didn't do well there. But I just thought that was cool. And then as I started wrestling in high school or doing other sports, I would run here and there. I wasn't consistent. I didn't train. Sometimes I'd just get this burst of motivation and go out there. And then I met this girl in high school, and I think one day I asked her, "What are your plans this weekend?" And because I wanted to hang out, and she was like, "Oh, I'm running a half marathon." I was like, "Oh, how long is that?" She's like, 13.1 miles. And I said, "Well, can I sign up? Can I come do that with you?" And she's like, "Reese, you don't train." And I was like, "Well, maybe I could gut it out. We'll see." And I remember the night before the race, we were texting or on the phone, and I said, "I'm going to go for a run." And she's like, "Why are you running the day before a race? Like, you don't train as is, and then you're just going to, be more tired or sore the next day." And I was like, fuck it, And I went for a 2 mile run, and then the next day I ran that half marathon. I did really well, in my opinion, up to 7 miles in, and then I had to like walk, run, walk, run, walk, run, because I did not consume anything during that run. Like no gels, no nutrition, didn't know anything about that. Probably wasn't hydrated. I don't think maybe I ate breakfast that morning, but the point is it wasn't enough. But I beat her, so I beat her, and I can't remember if I ran like a 2:15 or 2:20, 2 hours 20 minutes, something like that. It wasn't that fast, but to be able to get it out without any training, I felt really good about it, and my ego is definitely on the line because there's this girl that I'm trying to impress, and so I couldn't quit, and so I'm glad she told me to try and do my best instead of stick with her, because that was originally my plan. But I took off, and it was something that really started the snowball effect of my running. I ran another half marathon with her, and then we stopped dating, and so I didn't really have a reason to run anymore. Like, I guess I still kind of did it for wrestling or whatever, but I didn't care like I did when I was with her. And so it went away for a couple of years, and I ended up leaving high school in 2017. I was not a big fan, didn't have a good time. I would plead with my parents to help me, or let me be homeschooled, and they just couldn't manage it. And so at one point, we made an agreement my senior year that if I could get a full time job and I could pass my GED, I could leave. And so I did. And that initially helped me a lot because finally I was out of this place that I didn't want to be in at all and was just so excruciatingly painful for me. And then I slowly kind of slipped back into that depression a little bit more, and I didn't see the point to life after a little bit of time outside of high school. And so I read David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me book. A coworker recommended it to me, and I thought just his whole story was fascinating. I just really latched on to the idea of ultras and how when you push yourself hard, you learn, like you just get something that you can't if you don't go to those points. And interestingly enough, like I kind of always had that, like wrestling got me in that mindset of mental grit and pushing. But there would be times I'd be watching Netflix shows, and I just like every 5 minutes stop and do 15 push-ups and just do that for a couple hours, and or I'd do like pull-ups a lot of nights sometimes. Or I think at one point I started doing like 100 squats, 100 sit-ups, 100 push-ups, and did that every night. Like I always had this fascination with trying to go one more or see what happens when you go that far or push that hard. And it just translated really well into life after reading David Goggins' book. And I was doing 75 hard, I believe, and then my mom messaged me about a half marathon that was coming up on Saturday. It was a Wednesday when she messaged me, and she said, "Hey, you should maybe go do this and replace those memories of that ex-girlfriend with running and make your own." And I was like, okay. And so I showed up with shoes or with holes in my shoes because I didn't have any new pairs of running shoes. And I brought a couple gels, I think, and some salt tablets, and I started running. I think I was sticking with the 145 pacer, an hour 45 minutes, and then with the last 2 miles I started pushing a little bit more because I had it in me. And so I ran a really decent half marathon for kind of training. Like, I didn't have a specific training plan, I was just kind of running here and there at this point. And I remember thinking, well, I have holes in my shoes, and I didn't really do a lot of research on nutrition, and I didn't train at all, do any speed workout. What could happen if I decided to go all in? And what would happen if I really tried to do everything right and get really specific into training and nutrition? And the other part of this was interesting. Like, to me, it's interesting when I look back. I remember looking at like my age ranking, like where I placed in my age group, and I was like 30th or 40th or something crazy, and I'm competitive. And so I was like, man, that sucks. Like, I'm competing against these cross country kids, or these kids that are in college that have been running and having a coach and a team for like 8 years or longer sometimes. And I just remember thinking, well, David Goggins does ultras. Maybe I could just jump into ultras and I could place in my age group or win in my age group. And it's funny that I had that thought, and it's not like there's any shame in being a lower ranking or whatever, or not winning your age group or winning races. I'm just competitive like that, and I want to win. And so I thought about winning my age group for ultras, and that's when I signed up for my first 100-mile race. I think that half marathon I ran by myself was in January. I signed up for a 100-mile race in August, I believe, and then I just went to work and I found this training plan online, put it into Google Sheets, and I would just copy it straight up. And when I had a 28-mile long run, I would run until I couldn't, and then I would walk the rest of it. And I just really started spending time on feet and time listening to podcasts and reading books and asking people at races I would go to what their strategies were and what they do, or trying to get close to the person who won the race just to get some sort of nugget from them. And this just snowballed into, now at this point in my running career, I've done several things that I'm extremely proud of. I've run 3 different 100-mile races, several 50-milers. I set a course record at 7 hours and 11 minutes. I can't remember the seconds. At a 50-miler, I won a 100-mile race, one of those three 100-mile races. I ran a sub 3-hour marathon, a 1:18 half. I ran 10 marathons in 10 days, and I had a 933 running day streak where I ran at least 2 miles every day. And so I'm very proud with my running, and my other fitness goals actually is my max squats 250, deadlifts 315, and benches 225. So I've really sunk my time, a lot of investment into running, and there's been ups and downs, and I've had injuries or places when I don't PR or I get disappointed or I quit a workout, and I've also had such highs of just learning more and being able to share things with people. And I think that's where I am at right now, where I am really just trying to help people learn from my mistakes. And as I talk about running and share these videos and ideas, I come to understand it even more for myself. And at work, we say this thing like see one, do one, teach one, and it's the learning process, because you got to see it to learn it, then you do it to learn it, and when you start teaching it, you learn even more. And I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. So if you've made it to this point of the video, feel free to comment any sort of question, any video idea, and if I have some 2 cents I could put on the idea or into that video, I will. And if not, hopefully I can find a resource that helps you. But I appreciate the people so far that have been commenting as my channel starts to pick up a little bit more, and it gives me more ideas, and ultimately I'm trying to make videos that are educational and valuable to other people, so it helps to know what you're trying to figure out or what you're learning. So if you like running content, that's what this channel is about. I appreciate it if you made it to this point in the video, and I hope I get to see you in another video sometime soon. Peace.